It's ready.
Ready?
He. Welcome to episode 5 of Two Peas on a Pod. I'm Pete, the second chronologically of the Peas. The other P is my dad Paul, and we're about to break down topics ranging from the breakdown of societal niceties in the areas of dog poop and leaf blowing. We'll confront the disgraceful allegations against Swillhouse and other hospitality groups. And we'll serve service staff a serve while we weigh in on waiters and their ways. And now, back to our dulcet tones and fizzy mic interference from Paul's $25 POS MIC. Good morning.
G'day, P2. How you going?
P1, how are you? Good to see you here. What
Excellent.
brings you?
Fine and chipper. What brings me here? I live here.
That seat. This is where I am. Life
That's
revolves around me.
Correct.
What do you got today?
We're not going to talk about the Truman Show again.
All right. Well,
So,
what do you got?
well, okay. So, I want to talk about dog poo. I know this is not a subject that interests you greatly, but I'm amazed how badly and how misbehaved and how inappropriate some dog owners are with the collection of their poo.
Yeah.
People don't pick up poo. Or the strangest thing of all is that they pick up the poo in the biodegradable bag and leave it at the spot
That's very weird.
rather than
Do
putting
they
it.
do that?
Heaps of people do.
I don't really walk a dog regularly or ever.
If you look around, if you had your eyes open while you were walking,
Yeah.
you would see that. Maybe not in the salubrious neighbourhood you live in, but certainly around here.
Did you say salubrious?
I did.
What's that?
Salubrious. I don't know. You'll have to fact check me.
You
See
don't
if
know the
it-
meaning of the
it's an
word you just
appropriate word.
used?
Well, it's a nice neighbourhood.
Salubrious as a sound of a word just sounds like a negative word, but okay.
Well, let's look it up.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I said, what does it mean? And for someone who's using it, you should probably know what it means, I guess. But
Something
anyway,
I've used since I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
And
it means made of rubber.
correct.
In the made of rubber world that you live.
Pleasant, not run down.
Okay, cool. So, you live in a non-salubrious neighbourhood, is that what you're saying?
Matter for you to decide.
Well, I don't know. That's what you're saying. That there's no dog shit in my neighbourhood because it's salubrious. Anyway, ridiculous, but go on.
So when I was young,
Yeah?
dogs roamed free in the street. And they pooed
They
everywhere.
live in the dream. Those
Yeah.
dogs.
They weren't fed luxury food.
Yep.
They were fed scraps. They weren't pampered pooches. The poo was left in the street to turn white and disintegrate. But there's somehow the dogs knew where to put it. The people don't. Dogs are now on leads and they poo as they walk on the path, the footpath. I was up at a local shops the other day, and the corner was covered in shit that had been trodden on. It was just horrible. But this bag thing really annoys me because it's just as easy to carry it 20 metres, 50 metres to either a public bin
Yep.
or someone else, a bin that's on the street.
Is it a bin issue? That the bins aren't close enough and people are like, just fuck it, I'll leave it here.
I think they just don't want to carry the bag with the poo in it.
That's what I'm saying. And like they're like, I'll have to carry this too far.
I don't know what it is.
It's a
I
step-
can't fathom the logic.
I reckon it's a step
People
better and a step worse, I guess. It's a step better for people because you're not going to step in poo. They've done enough to remove that issue. But then they've also put plastic or whatever into the environment in a place that it may flow into a drain. You know, so environmentally they've made the situation worse.
Well, they're generally are biodegradable bags.
Right.
You buy on a roll and you carry with you, or you pick up that the council has.
So the ideal
little
outcome
stations.
from that is that it does go down the drain. No one steps on it by the time the bag's biodegraded and it's gotten rid of. That's what these people are thinking.
No, I don't think. Well, they might be thinking that, but it's a very weird, warped view.
Yeah. So, well, what's the move?
Of being
Like, what's
green. I mean,
yeah.
And maybe the people,
they're not being green.
the greenies
Yeah.
people, don't want to use the bag that biodegrades, and they think it's better to leave the poo on the street for other people to tread on.
That's a bit crazy because you could take a shovel with you and like throw it down somewhere. put it to the side.
Throw it down a drain. But if you throw it down a stormwater drain, then it pollutes the beaches.
Yeah, okay.
It's
Or you could pick it up and put it in a bin without a bag if you're really so worried about the bags.
Yes, or a little pooper scooper.
And what do you want to see happen? You're disappointed with that situation? What are you looking for?
Pick up their poo
and put them in the bin.
and put it in a bin, in a receptacle.
I don't think anyone's going to disagree with you on that.
Okay.
I think people who are even doing dodgy plays would agree with your concept. They're just doing it dodgy and not bothering.
And I just hope our huge audience and audienceship heed this call and pass it on to their dog-owning friends who may or may not.
All 22 of you, please listen up and ensure that Paul's demands are met.
So we've not grown this week. We're still on 22.
We've contracted.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. But it's also listens. I don't really know enough about the analytics to figure out how to know if it's separate people or it's just plays. This is a plays analytic I was looking at.
Right. Okay.
But we are big in Japan, Russia, the UAE, those other places. That was random that listened to us. But yeah. Canada. It's not random. It's your brother. We know the source of those votes.
Well, I guess so. So, I wanted to talk about life imitating art and art imitating life.
All right. Is this from the news?
Yes.
Good. Finally.
There's
something topical.
You may or may not recall the Seinfeld episode.
Yes, I was going to say, is this to do with Seinfeld?
Where George buys John Voight's car.
Yep. And he bites on a pencil, and then he wants to get the pencil checked out by the dentist.
Right.
So you don't recall the episode?
No, I remember that. I don't remember the dentist's detail.
Yeah, okay.
So, in the paper
this
week, there's an article about a Ferrari being sold that was
Ferrari.
19 whatever Ferrari worth £1 million, €1 million.
It's an old Ferrari, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a picture of it, which was allegedly owned by
Angelina Jolie. Okay.
Who
you can
is?
show the camera because we're going to put this. You can now watch on Spotify too, I think.
Angelina Jolie
is John Voight's daughter.
Correct.
Yes.
So
very interesting.
So is that art imitating life or life imitating art?
That's good.
And I was trying to think of other examples of that, but I didn't succeed very well. But there's endless. I thought of the iPhone.
Yeah.
And the iWatch.
And how they used to have kind of talking to the thingos. Yeah.
Dick Tracy was a cartoon detective.
Yeah, was that the
policeman?
What did he have? The shoe phone?
He had a watch.
Phone, yeah, right.
And he called all his operatives.
Oh, he had like the eye.
Exactly like an eye. Dick
what are they called? I don't even know what the Apple Watch. iWatch. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I just thought that was amusing and interesting. And the Jetsons, in fact, I did think of a lot of things. I just forgot what I found. That all these things that when I was a child that were science fiction.
Yep.
How do writers conceive of this stuff that then becomes reality?
I think there's like a wouldn't it be cool if moment or thought, and then people in the real world later go, that would be cool if, and then they try to make it once the technology becomes available.
Yeah, I also
they're probably getting, technology-wise, they're probably getting ideas from what people thought up and go, that actually is a good idea. How can we actually implement it and make it?
And as the technology moves on, it becomes possible.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was something that caught my eye.
Yeah. What else you got? Because can I just jump in here and alert everyone that you've been tasked with bringing news topics to this?
It's not only news topics. It's things that annoy me.
That's fine too.
And things that I think other people find annoying.
That's fine. But this was an example of a news topic. And the idea of the news topic is something that we can talk about, have a bit of rigorous debate on. You've just brought basically your topic of interest that's printed in news and got through on a technicality with that one. There's nothing to it. You've got nothing on it. There's no comment. Try again. What else you got? That's what I'm saying.
Well, I don't want to talk about political geopolitical
Bring whatever you
issues.
want.
I don't want to talk about them.
We don't need to talk
on
about
air.
geopolitical issues. Bring whatever you want, but it's a little more two sides of this to discuss rather than... I mean, you didn't even tell us. What's this story with Angelina's Ferrari? Is there any... Did you read it?
Yes, of course.
I feel like you've read the heading, seen the photos, thought of John Voight and Seinfeld, and that's where we're at. Is that what happened?
No, it's not. I read the story.
People can see your grin.
And the story
now.
is... well,
It's not just the microphone anymore. People can see.
how happy I am.
You're a very happy man, I agree.
I read the story,
Yep.
and the story is about that the car was reputedly owned by her,
Yep.
but it hasn't been confirmed.
Okay.
It's almost like someone started a rumour in order to increase the value of the car,
Of the newspaper
which is
itself.
exactly what happened in Seinfeld.
Yes.
Someone was deliberately misleading.
So they're selling the car, is that what's
Yes,
happening?
it's going to auction.
Auction house. Yeah, okay.
So,
Exceptional sale. All right, well, what else you got?
okay, so there's a big brouhaha
This is what we like. We love a brouhaha.
about the hospitality industry in Sydney at the moment.
Right, got a lot to say about that. Go on.
And there's a number of things in the hospitality industry that I would also like to talk about.
Sure.
But this particular issue is about, I guess, the analogy with the casting couch
Yes.
in Hollywood
Yep.
or in theatre, the movies, translating into the hospitality industry.
This is Swillhouse, I guess we're talking about.
Swillhouse, but also Maryvale.
What was the Maryvale story?
This one.
Tell me. Give me a rundown. You can show the camera over there. It's one step away from being a brothel, says the quote. Who's that? Who's being quoted there?
It's a headline, probably the sub-editor.
It's a
wrote that.
quoting headline, though.
Well, actually, it was
It's in quote marks. But anyway.
a manager
Yep.
at some exclusive area of the Ivy
Yep.
building, talking about how staff, especially female staff, were being treated by management
Yep.
and therefore being passed on to high value clients.
Really?
Yeah,
That's pretty crazy. Is that what it's about?
yeah,
I mean, is that what it's saying?
yeah. In a nutshell,
I mean, that's pretty nuts.
yes, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's not new. It's not surprising in any way. It's just terrible. It's been.
I think it's a
going
little surprising. I think if you're running a legitimate business that's not a prostitution place, not a brothel, which is also a legitimate business, but people know what they're doing there, and you're hiring women, and then you're suddenly saying you have to go and lap dance for people as part of your duties. Do you want to give me a bit of detail as to what was the alleged goings on?
Not really,
Okay, great.
but and it wasn't exactly lap dancing. But
Yeah.
It was basically people who were delivering drinks then having to sit on people's laps,
Right.
and
This is how you know you're a good man. You've never been to a strip club for a lap dance, obviously, because that's pretty much it.
I have to admit I've been to a strip club,
Right.
not for a lap
Have
dance.
you had it? You haven't had a lap dance.
No, I've spectated.
Spectated the lap dance.
Sure.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Didn't you have Bucks nights for your friends?
Yeah, 100%.
Well,
No, yeah, sure. The lap dance is like in a private area, so you would have to go in there. But maybe not when you were there.
when I was young.
When you were younger. Maybe it was the lap dances were on show for all.
Or maybe I saw a sanitised lap dance.
Maybe.
Not sanitary, but sanitised.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Sounds like those are sanitized lap dances. Doesn't make them right, the situation, because they're not employed to give lap dances, these people.
Right. And people who need work feel vulnerable.
Under pressure to do
Yes.
whatever's asked.
Yes.
Because they don't want to lose their job.
Yes, that's right. Probably male and female.
Yeah. Obviously, I think anyone would agree that if that's what's happening, that's wrong.
Yeah, and I think the denials by senior people are probably a little bit disingenuous, which was happened in the Swillhouse group.
What did Swillhouse come out and say?
I'm shocked.
Oh, right, like that they didn't know it was happening.
Yeah. And that's
Quoted by Blind Freddy.
maybe they weren't across the detail,
Yeah.
but organisations leaders of organisations create an environment where people further down the line take actions. And we've now seen that in all sorts of organisations, in the media, in politics, in the military, in corporations, that the leader sets the tone for an organisation.
Well, what do you think is the issue? I mean, this happens a lot when you just said kind of government and all, reminded me of the case that's just finished with Brittany Higgins. That's her name, isn't it? I didn't get that wrong, did I?
There was a person called Brittany Higgins, yes, go on.
That she was raped in Parliament, allegedly. I'm not sure what's happened with the case. But yes, all this stuff is occurring. What's the prevailing...
I think that's a totally different...
It's people in positions of power exerting their power for sex in these situations.
I think Brittany Higgins is totally different kettle of fish, as it were, because the employer and the leader did not create the environment for this to occur. It just happened to occur in Parliament House.
But wasn't the guy like
He was a junior.
Oh, he was a junior.
Just not as junior as her.
Yeah, well, there might have been an element of her being like a bit like very early stages of like, oh, I'll go with him because he's kind of my boss or whatever it is. Like there would be some ranking situation there of power play as well. But okay, let's forget that particular example. But this happens regularly with men in power and, and vulnerable. These women aren't vulnerable women as in they're like, a vulnerable person. They're just normal people employed in a normal situation. But then obviously they're put in grey areas with conflicting interests because on one hand you're like, well, I'm trying to keep my job, I'm trying to advance in my career. Mm-hmm. And you don't immediately, I mean, sometimes of course you do, someone would just out of the blue be attempting to rape someone. Of course that occurs too. But I mean, also in a lot of these, it's probably there's grooming elements where you're slowly being positioned into a way where suddenly you're doing something so out of the ordinary or whatever it is, so against your will, but you've had to play along. You've been uncomfortable for plenty of moments getting to that point as well.
Yes, that's one possible scenario.
And so why does it happen?
It's like at the office Christmas party.
Yeah.
The boss gets a bit pissed. The girl gets a bit pissed. Things happen. And that's not grooming.
Yeah, but if they're consensual, that's okay. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about
ball of what is consent. It's a whole new ball game. There's a whole conversation. Not really.
If it's consent, well, there is a whole conversation about what consent is, but also there's answers to it. It's not really grey. There's consent. People just need to be educated on what consent is and the different forms of consent. And consent can change throughout a moment as well. Like you can be consenting and then stop consenting, and that's okay too, and that's genuine. But I'm really saying, what is causing men, pretty much, mostly, to do this? Are they unhappy? Are they unhappy with themselves? Are they... Why is this such an issue in society? And still an issue in society?
In that context, it's been going on since time immemorial.
Agree.
Where people in power take advantage of people who are powerless.
Agree.
And all sorts of shades in between.
And why haven't we kind of gotten rid of this?
But I also think, there's been a whole lot of examples recently of female school teachers grooming students.
Yeah. I don't know about a whole lot of examples, but yes.
I don't know, 4 or 5 in the last year.
Yeah, that's not... in terms of I'm sure on the chart there'd be a very small amount of women doing it and perpetrators and way more male perpetrators.
I'm sure in business it's the same thing with more and more females in positions of power in organisations. If they're so inclined, I think the world is equal.
That's crazy. Sorry. That's crazy. This is not an equal amount of perpetrators, male and female.
I think the world is equal. I didn't say there's an equal amount.
Okay, sorry. What do you mean by that?
people in power take advantage of other people with less power, irrespective of their gender, because they can, for whatever reason.
I agree with that. But you're saying then we're looking at all types of advantage taking, so including like making someone work extra hours and not really paying them.
Sure.
But which is fine. I agree with you, and probably that is non-gender exclusive or weighed one way or the other. But sexual kind of harassment,
exploitation.
That would be male heavy, taking advantage of women. It is. Like, there'll be statistics that'll confirm this.
But statistics don't necessarily tell the whole story. I think...
Sexual harassment is generally underreported, because I'm thinking now you're going to try and... you're going to argue that males aren't necessarily reporting it, statistics are skewed, but they're also underreported by females too.
The common view would be that, oh, man always wants it. So, anyway, I just thought it was an interesting subject.
It's pretty interesting.
And there's other things about hospitality.
And terrible.
It's no doubt terrible.
Yeah.
About hospitality that really bugged me.
So let me ask you this. Do you think this is more hospitality than any other industry? You think this is particularly surprising that it's... I can't believe in hospitality this is happening. Because me personally, I'm like, this happens everywhere.
I think wherever there are low-paid workers that need the work, hospitality tends to be an industry where there are casual workers, people who need the money much more than in other industries. For example, in a high-tech business, where there's a CEO.
There's more room for it to get swept under the rug.
Well, just the disparity is greater. And the ability for people to be employed or unemployed is so easy. If you're working, like I was saying, in a high-tech industry where there is competition for qualified, trained staff, the culture is going to be much more of, we want to keep our staff. We don't want the risk of them running away.
Yeah.
In hospitality, where there are people on the basic wage, $20, $30 an hour, whatever it may be, being employed by people who are on hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, there's a vast, vast disparity. And also there's a greater pool of people available to come and fill the jobs at $20 or $30 an hour.
Yeah, so you're really talking about, I know the example I brought up was different, and now I'm thinking about like if a senior lawyer harasses a paralegal in the firm or whatever it is, but that is also not exactly what you're talking about, because you're actually talking about, well, I think you're talking about the idea of like part of your job role is to go and dance for these guys, being said to someone and them having to cop it or quit, which they're all problematic things. The legal thing,
black and white.
What is
in these establishments?
Yeah,
where it's sort of implicitly said that that's part of your job. That if it needs to be, it needs to be. Otherwise, don't bother coming in.
Yeah.
Whereas in a law firm that you raised that example, people also want to keep their jobs.
Yeah, but that's so they won't report it maybe.
A staff level.
Yeah.
There's no third parties coming into the place.
No
customers.
With hospitality, it's an interesting one because firstly there's alcohol involved in the workplace, which makes it already problematic. You're in a party atmosphere where people consensually hook up regularly and people consensually are, flirting with each other on a dance floor, for example. So you're in an environment of this flirtatiousness, there's alcohol involved, and then probably what the kind of things are said is like, keep them happy. They're not necessarily saying point blank, this is what you're expected to do. But then the junior person may come back to the manager and say, oh, he's doing this when I'm going over there. And they're like, keep him happy, which is obviously wrong. They should be protected. But yeah, I can see why hospitality in that framework would be a huge issue to have these issues all the time. And yeah, I think it's... you're right. It's as you said earlier about management. It is on the companies themselves to be going to their customers and saying this kind of behavior is not accepted here, and making that very clear. Wherever they're broadcasting, or wherever it is, they should be just that should be clear.
And maybe the problem is exacerbated with these large hospitality organisations that have multiple venues and multiple layers of management, that, as opposed to, let's say, the family-run pub, where the owner
can just go deal with it.
They can go deal with it. In my imagination, it's a more family kind of operation, where people in small business tend to look after their staff more than in big business.
I think yes and no. I think in a big organisation, you can have a 20-page, 5-page, 10-page, whatever manual about sexual harassment in the workplace from guests. You can have this written down where every single person from level to level of management knows about this thing, and also the staff to the newest staff member can just read this manual obviously too, and there should just be an expectation of how it's dealt with. And I think it's easier almost to implement in that kind of situation, whereas a guy running or a woman running a pub or whatever it is, that day-to-day worried about being in the business as well, doesn't necessarily have time to do this and has to troubleshoot these issues as they come. And yes, they might be more immediately dealt with, but also culture-wise, I think it's easier to set a culture in a big organisation.
And it's very easy to create a scenario in your mind that this may or may not apply to. I just feel like I want to rebut what you said about the manuals, because people need to read the manuals and be cognizant of them. But managers down the line are under, I think, more pressure to keep the profits for their individual establishment going, and then because they don't want to lose their jobs.
Yeah,
they've got KPIs, they've got standards to which they've got to adhere. Whereas in a small organisation, it's more, I think, more forgiving for the guy that owns the place can make the decision more readily, and he's not under the same pressure. Sure, if there's mortgages and bills to pay and people aren't coming in, there's pressure. So I just don't want to sort of generalise on individual possibilities. I just think that the whole situation is terrible, and I want to move on to another problem.
We're agreed. Move on. You've got 3 minutes left.
Whoa, I've been talking for that long?
Yeah, about that topic, which I don't think was that great. But anyway, it was a good topic you brought in. There's no argument for us to have about it. We both would totally agree with the sentiment.
So what do you think about waiters who don't write down or use a pad?
Yeah, great topic. Great topic. This is what we need up front. Let's do another 30 minutes and cut that whole first bit. What do I think? I think if you get the order right, you've proved me wrong in whatever I thought as you were doing it, which definitely was like, you want to grab a pen?
That's right.
Also, I know how much I'm going to be ordering, and you as the waiter have no idea. I might be saying 1 Coke, thanks, or I might have 10 dishes here coming out of my mouth.
Or I want the number 3, but take the peas off, add a cucumber.
Yeah, especially these days, exactly.
That's right.
Exactly, dietary requirements, etc. Yeah, so
no one orders standard anymore.
The power move for the waiter, I think they don't realise this, would be to start without the thing, but be ready to pull out the pad and pen. Just be like, hang on, I might write this down because it's quite a lot you're ordering.
Well, that's right. Then they've got to have it with them.
Let me also subtitle this entire thing with, I don't think waiters really exist that much anymore. They've got a pad in their hand, like they're pressing the button.
Some places
or you're ordering yourself off the QR, or you're ordering up at the bar.
There's all of that, again.
Yeah.
But there are still people in coffee shop, in the smaller places, where they come to the table and they say, what can we get you?
Yeah, sure.
And if there's 4 people, 5 people, it becomes a problem.
Yeah. So what do you think about it?
Well, I'm amazed if it actually comes right. And as you
It's
say,
like you're expecting an incorrect order.
yeah,
Yeah. Love it. Yeah.
that's my expectation, and I don't know what the server thinks they're going to achieve by it.
Yeah.
Are they going to be faster?
They put them on the wall. The photo goes up on the wall. This hero took this order without a pad on the 31st of October.
Well, that's right. Is that what they think?
I don't know.
They think it's going to be faster?
Yeah, I don't know that
Or
this...
you think they're more competent, they're going to get a bigger tip?
Nah.
I
Not in
just
Australia, I don't think it's the tip at all. Maybe in America, that's a concept. Like, wow, that guy really remembered my order.
Yeah,
Give him
paying
21%.
attention to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, anyway.
Do you reckon they're using it as a, like, feather in the hat kind of thing? Like, I'm the greatest waiter ever and I can remember stuff? Like,
It's like...
not much to be proud of
like,
being a waiter, or, like, what's
Or we
happening?
play with the card games where you've got to turn them over and match them. Maybe they're just kids and they see it as that sort of game.
Yeah, it's actually, what I just said, it's kind of made me think of an interesting thing. Like, I don't think, there's nothing wrong with being a waiter. Be a waiter. But don't take pride in it as in, like, in this kind of pride. Take the pride of, like, I do a good job because I'm a good person and I'm reliable or whatever. But don't be like, I need to do this to show how good at waiting I am. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. There's a difference between, because they'll say, oh, I take pride in my work, I want to do, like, yes, take pride in your work, but this isn't taking pride in your work. This is like trying to flex the aspects of your job that you can potentially flex at in that way. You don't need to flex, just do your job and be happy, or if you don't like your job, don't do that job. But
maybe it's a power play to show
that's what I'm saying.
The waiter is better than the people ordering.
Better than them.
I don't know.
How does that compute?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between service and civility.
I just think if you take that to all walks of life, there's no need to flex on the job. Because the job is just utilitarian for life. Unless you're making the world genuinely a better place. And some people, I guess some waiters might think they're serving customers, making people happy, so they are making the world a better place in some ways. That is true. You're making someone have a good day. But you don't need to, like, I don't know, just work flex is weird. It's like, and on LinkedIn, like when people write these posts that are like I did this and it was awesome and like I love the opportunity to do that. It's just a bit, yeah, good for you, like, but also like what? Like it's just work. Like just be a good person and if you can work well with XYZ person, great. Have that link and work together and have something
and
together.
If you're happy with your job, just do it well.
Yeah, yeah. I don't see work as this like. You've conquered the workplace.
It also brings me to waiters with attitude.
Yeah.
Where they do think they're better than you, or they underestimate you as a consumer.
Give me the like waiter mindset of thinking they're better than someone. Can you come up with it?
Yeah, we went many years ago to a renowned restaurant.
Is it closed now?
Yes.
So you can name it.
Well, don't want to name it.
I'd say at your age, the 50-year statute of limitations would be. I'm not that old.
It wasn't Mr. Pointy's.
I'm not that old.
It wasn't Mr. Pointy's hamburger shop. It was Tetsuya.
Did Mr. Squiggle open a restaurant?
Not Mr. Squiggle, Mr. Pointy.
Okay.
Mr. Squiggle is different.
It was Tetsuya's. Yeah. I thought you were going to say Claude's.
No. Claude's was fantastic. And we went to Claude's quite often and really enjoyed it. And there was excellent people who understood what serving was about. They weren't intrusive. They weren't butting into your conversation. And that's another thing that I really hate. People, waiters, waitresses, and I use waiters in a
non-gendered term. That's what you mean, yeah.
Who are listening to your conversation, which is inevitable if you're in that job, but it's not your role to butt in. There's a particular restaurant which...
you can hear the conversation, obviously, because it's audible, but you're not in the conversation.
Correct.
It's the same like when I'm driving Uber. I'm not in these people's conversation.
Right.
Like, they don't want me to also throw in my 2 cents if they're having a private conversation.
Absolutely, exactly the same.
Yeah.
So,
Side comment, I think people don't realise, and I've done it as a passenger, you just think the person's not listening to you. But when you're the driver, like you absolutely can hear everything they're saying. Like they're sitting right
sometimes
there.
you can, sometimes you can't. Because as you know, we both drive Uber.
Some people do like whisper moments, so they're aware.
And when I listen to the radio in the front seat,
Yeah.
I often just can't hear, or I turn off what's going on in the back seat.
Yeah, fine. But I find mostly people are at a level that it's loud enough that I just can hear what they're saying.
So I just...
So you're at Tetsuya's.
And the wine list came, and the wine list was ordinary.
Mm.
And then I looked around the room, and there was a wine enclosure with obviously better wines in it.
Mm.
And this foppy English-style waiter with the floppy hair.
I was going to say, did he have like a wave kind of length of hair over this way? And he went, ugh.
Yes.
Ugh.
And he basically said,
nah.
You can't afford that wine.
You couldn't afford that one.
It was just... And I thought, you've got no idea
Mm.
who I am, whether I can afford it or not.
And you may be willing to pay money that you can't afford
for
a bottle of wine that evening.
It's his job
because you're on a
to
special
give me
evening.
the offering that the restaurant has available.
It's a crazy comment. It's actually insanity because surely he didn't. You'd get a bit of upsell per bottle of wine. Maybe he's getting a little commission on that. You know,
He didn't say it implicitly, directly.
Yes,
but it was clearly implied. And the other people at the table.
So none of this happened. Is that
the other people at the table? Saw it and noticed it.
I don't know.
Well.
I don't not believe you, but I actually would love to know what actually happened.
You can
moment
ask,
for moment.
You know all the people who were there.
Do you know the words that came out of his mouth?
It's 25 years ago, but it was clearly...
Yeah. He was like...
Words to that effect.
They're not for you.
They're special wines. They're very expensive wines. Something...
That gave you that impression. I mean, yeah, and it's all about impression.
And it gave us all...
Customer service is about impression. It's not necessarily the words either. As they say, they won't remember what you say. They remember how you've made them feel.
That guy did not get a tip.
Yeah. So
we've never been back since.
You should have said, I couldn't afford the tip.
Didn't need to.
I just gave that impression.
Are we going on?
Yeah. We're at 37 minutes, but I feel like we need more good stuff in this episode than...
Okay, so following on from dog poo...
I said good stuff.
Leaf blowing and street sweeping.
Yeah. What of it?
It's a symptom of the selfishness of society.
The fact you have this happening. Oh, sorry. By the council.
Well, the council
street sweeping
is sweeping.
Yeah, and who does the leaf blowing?
People out of their houses.
Blowers of the leaf.
Gardeners.
Yep.
People maintenance plants.
Okay.
So across...
Chuck out what you...
Okay. So they come with their leaf blower.
Yep.
They tidy up their driveway and surrounds within their property.
Yeah.
And they then blow mountains of leaves onto the street.
And then the council has to clean it up.
Well, the council has to clean it up, or they blow into somebody else's place.
Yeah, so it's my spot's tidy now, and that's the end of my duty. Now, what is the rule about this? Are you allowed to blow leaves from your property onto the street, or do you have to pick them up?
No idea.
Well, that'd be a starting point.
Common courtesy would be to pick them up and put them in your green bin.
Yeah, that's correct.
So what really raised my hackles was the block of flats across the road. The garden maintenance fellow was there. He blew out the leaves. It was a particularly windy day, and they literally blew across the road into my driveway. So then I had to then clean them up and put them in my green bin.
Okay, let me throw this at you.
Like the leaf guy?
He didn't plant the tree, not the leaf guy, the apartments, the owner, say it's a house, whatever. A person who owns the house is doing the leaf blowing for this example. He didn't plant the tree. He doesn't...
You don't know that?
I'm saying, in this example, he didn't plant the tree. The tree might even be on his property.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to cut the tree down. He doesn't like it. The council doesn't let him. This is regular. This is very regular within councils. They don't let you cut anything. They don't let you do anything. So now he's forced to deal with this tree shit that he doesn't want to deal with all the time. And he's maybe saying in his mind, well, if you're not going to let me cut the tree down, council, you can clean up the leaves. I will blow them onto the street for you, and you can collect them. I don't think that's so unfair. I agree with you in your, utopian sense of people, common decency and whatever. You're not wrong. But also, it's not really fair. It's not like he's gone, bought a tree, planted it. It's not like the dog poo where it's his decision and there's consequences on the decision, and then therefore he should totally deal with the consequences. It's up to him alone. It's a little bit different, I think.
So, I was robbed. My
Sorry to
house
hear.
was broken into.
Yes.
This is a fictitious story.
I know.
Fortunately. So that entitles me
Yes.
to go and rob somebody from somebody else.
No.
In your scenario.
No. What?
It does.
I can't even begin to unpack that because I can't think of how to link this together. So, what equals what in that scenario?
You're saying that
Because you got robbed.
I don't have to behave by the rules, and I accept that I don't know what the rules about leaf blowing are. I don't have to exert any common courtesy because this happened to me. It's not my tree. I didn't like the tree. The leaves come onto my property. Therefore, I can inflict my leaves on somebody else.
It's not what I said. In your example,
Exactly
what I'm saying is you got robbed. You have the right to catch that person and to deal with them within the constraints of the law, which is what currently happens. The police can catch that. You make a police report. That person can be caught.
I know I'm jumping the shark.
No,
what I'm telling
but you're
you is,
saying something different.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to broaden it to say it's not right that if something is done wrong to you, for you to go and do wrong to somebody else.
And I didn't say that.
Yes, you did. Not my tree. The leaves fell. I blew it out of my property and it went to your place.
They're not doing something wrong. It shouldn't go to your neighbour's house. I agree.
It's
the intention might be to put it on the street
negligent.
for the council.
The wind was blowing all around and it blew across into my garden. Did I have the right to go across to him and say, come and look what you've done? He would have hit me over the head. This gardener.
Yeah, I don't know. I think people should have more rights around the tree. He should. If this guy doesn't like leaves falling on his thing, there should be a way for him to deal with that. You're right. He shouldn't blow it on your thing.
They probably like the tree because it provides privacy.
Maybe they do.
And shade, but a byproduct.
And collect your leaves.
Is leaves. That's right. They should.
And also,
council
what is the law? I
green
don't know what
bins.
the law is. They should be doing what the law is. We used to get it in Chippendale, these huge American or Canadian maple trees, which aren't native. And just yesterday I saw, apparently in Rose Bay, they've cut down a whole bunch of trees on like Balfour Avenue or something. And someone wrote on this Facebook group, what's happening? And someone else answered that council or land care, headed by Don Burke, this initiative, is taking out non-natives and they're going to replant gum trees or something native.
Right.
So great, because these Canadian maples, the leaves would shed every year, the drains would block.
Sure.
And I've got to deal with the block drain.
That's right.
Which is insanity. Now, but also, so in front of this shop, I used to blow the leaves onto the street for the street sweepers, because what am I meant to do with that? I'm meant to clean up this tree.
So there's a big difference to what I described, because these are leaves that are on the street, that are not your leaves in your property.
They're on the sidewalk in front of my shop.
You have no green bin to put it in.
That's also true.
And it was causing a hazard if it rained. We blocked the drain, so you moved them along.
Yeah.
Different.
It is different, and we can say it's very different, but I also think it's not actually different in terms of like, it's conceptually like not mine, this has happened from nature, and like I'll deal with it to whatever point is easiest for me to deal with.
You've washed the floor in your street, in your shop. You mopped it, and you got all this soapy, dirty water.
Yeah.
And you've swept it onto the sidewalk, onto the footpath.
Yeah.
Because your shop is clean inside now, but this dirty, greasy water residue is now all over the street or over the footpath for people to walk on.
Wrong.
For dogs to walk on.
Ethically wrong.
It's ethically wrong.
Yeah.
Much more analogous.
But I decided that I wanted to wash my shop of mess that I made. The leaves is a bit different. But it's okay. I don't think you're wrong. I just think, what's the law? What is this person meant to do with it?
They're meant to put it in
If
the
they're
bin.
allowed to be doing what he did, you're going to have to cop it.
The law is fantastic.
And you should be angry with the council. Not with the
I'm
guy.
also angry with the council because when the street sweeper comes, it's useless.
It's like being angry at people who avoid tax by figuring out loopholes. You can't be angry at them. What you have to do is either join them if you're so upset, or lobby your government to change the laws.
So when the street sweeper comes in our street, it's useless because all the leaves and the jacaranda droppings and whatever are in the gutter, but the street sweeper, because of the number of parked cars, can't get to the gutter. I know in some councils they have guys with leaf blowers walking ahead of the street sweeper and blowing into the middle of the road so the street sweeper can come. And I'm sure at your shop in the Sydney City Council area, that's what they do.
There's also shit. There's also cars parked. What I want to know is how come no one's invented... Well, they probably just haven't it on a TV show yet, but how come no one's invented like a vacuum cleaner that looks like kind of an elephant trunk coming off the side of a truck?
They have.
So it's under the cars, but it doesn't extend to under the cars, but it's at the level of there. And then the suction power is just enough that it's going to suck anything from the curbs.
Just be too slow.
What do you mean? It's the same thing as the street sweeper driving.
No,
it's
not.
just
The
sucking.
street sweeper drives
Yeah.
and has brushes that rotate.
This is the same thing.
And they keep going at 10 kilometres an hour. If you shove something underneath
No
the
shove
car,
under. Listen, it's not. It doesn't go under the car. What goes under the car is the airstream.
Well,
Yes,
it's not,
you're a lane over still. The thing is there, but it's so high powered that it's got enough suction to get from the curb to this
don't
thing.
know if it exists. You're talking about
It doesn't exist.
a couple
I'm saying why
a couple
hasn't
of
anyone?
metres.
Yeah, the width of a car.
And-
Should drive in the lane that's the traffic lane.
And also,
sucking.
for example, when the cars are parked in the street and the leaves have come downhill with the rain, they're all under the wheels. They're mounted up.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
nothing's
dammed up.
perfect, but you're
Yeah.
talking about a street sweeper with these brushes that do nothing unless they're up next to the curb, and they're never up next to the curb. It's ridiculous.
That's right.
I agree.
After the rain, I've seen. And I've
Get
taken
me a
photos.
vac truck. Elon, if you're listening, and I know you are, invent the Tesla vac truck as the next big thing.
Fantastic.
Love
I
it?
think we've gone too far now.
Not too
Anyway.
far, too long.
Too long. And I've got
We've not
lots
gone
of
far
subjects.
enough.
Lots of subjects that we can have carry over.
No, this is perfect. We're at like 47 minutes here. This is our wheelhouse.
So why don't we pee off?
We'll pee off and bid you adieu.
Good night, P2.
Good evening, P1.